Alright everyone, time for us to go over a film today that's one of Tim Burton's most well-known works. No, not that one. No, but that one is good. No, for the love of... It's Frankenweenie. We're discussing Frankenweenie. Now, there are two versions of this tale that Tim Burton has created. There's a 29-minute short from 1984, which was filmed in live action, as well as a full-length stop-motion film from 2012. Today, we're gonna go over both and see which version holds up the best, as they are both parts of my childhood. Without further ado, let's start with the 1984 version. The short starts off with our main character Victor. I wonder who he's based off of, showing off a film to his family and friends that he made with his dog Sparky. The two decide to go outside to play ball, and are obviously very close friends. Aw, how nice. It would be a shame if anything happened. So anyway, Victor is depressed after losing his best friend. Thanks for the ambience, I guess, lady? Victor discusses potentially getting another dog with his friends, but doesn't think he could find another dog like Sparky. However, he gets an idea upon seeing his science teacher's demonstration on electricity and how it affects the central nervous system. After this, Victor goes full Frankenstein mode, setting up everything he needs to bring back Sparky before going to dig him up. Of course, it is conveniently a stormy night, and Victor hoists Sparky up to hopefully bring him back to life. At first it seems like he didn't do anything other than burn out his mother's toaster, but then we see Sparky begin to move. The next day, Victor skips school to spend more time with Sparky. However, Victor ends up falling asleep and Sparky sneaks out of the attic and out of the house, wreaking doggy havoc throughout the neighborhood. Of course, the neighbors are cross with Victor's parents when they get home, and Victor's dad thinks the neighbors are just crazy, until he sees Victor speaking with the now revived Sparky, says nope, and backs out to talk to the neighbor. He claims it was probably just an alley cat and rushes with his wife back inside. Both of Victor's parents end up going through a parental crisis, but honestly, what can you do in this situation? Well, they decide that there really isn't much they can do, and try to go about their normal day. The neighbors, of course, are frightened and suspicious of Victor and his family, and Victor's dad decides it might be best to invite everyone over to meet Sparky tonight. Not sure if that's the best idea, but I guess what can you do in this situation? Well, the introduction goes just about as well as you'd expect, as everyone starts instantly screaming and spooks Sparky out of the house, which Victor runs after him. Well done, everyone. That went super well. I'll have some of that dip, though, if you don't mind. Victor's parents go after Victor and Sparky upon realizing that they're missing, and the neighbors run after them to try to get rid of Sparky. Victor follows Sparky into the old mill on a closed miniature golf course, with the neighbors and Victor's parents close behind, which doesn't bode well, as one of our HOA dunces drops a match trying to see into the mill, lighting the entire structure on fire, with Victor and Sparky inside. Sparky ends up saving Victor, but gets trapped by falling flaming debris and dies again. Victor is distraught, but the neighbors have a change of heart after realizing that Sparky saved Victor's life, as they all come together with their cars to try to bring Sparky to life again. It ends up working, and everyone joyfully embraces the twice revived Sparky. So the short is, of course, pretty simple, with a little more emphasis on comedy and parody throughout, as it's a version of Frankenstein in a typical suburban neighborhood. However, the lighting is fantastic and parodies old horror films really well, the comedy is great, and I would be lying if I said I didn't cry from the final scene. Probably doesn't help that I lost my dog earlier this year. I don't know why I do this to myself. The only thing I would say is maybe there's comedy in areas that should have been more serious, but all in all, it's a good classic short film, with humor and heart throughout. Now let's see how the 2012 version holds up. Does newer and longer necessarily mean better? Let's find out. Now, I won't go as in-depth into the plot of this one as I did with the short, unless there's a major plot difference between the two. So this one does start off fairly similar, with Victor showing his movie, but it's only to his parents rather than his parents, friends, and family. And we also find out that he doesn't really have any friends in this movie. In addition, one of the neighbors from the original is replaced by this cranky guy that is also the mayor, who seems to hate dogs and children, and probably almost everything other than a special Dutch Day celebration. We do get to see Victor at school as well, and I'm confused as to how he doesn't seem to have any friends, as half of the people in the school seem just as odd as he is. But at least we get to see homage to a few horror movies with these characters. And of course the teacher goes on a crazy tangent about lightning.
Besides, start to build a ladder. This man, he comes out to look at the storm. He does not see the invisible ladders when the two ladders meet. Boom!
Enough about that mental break, though. We're gonna focus on one of the weird girls in the class having a mental break, as she tells Victor that her cat dreamed of him, which means either something really good or really bad will happen today. Okay, maybe I get why Victor isn't friends with these people. They're really out there. So Victor goes home to Sparky and...
You'll be my partner, right, Victor?
Ugh, what's wrong with you people? Can't we just get to Sparky getting run over by the car?
You'd like to do the science fair, and that's great. I'd like you to try a sport. Say, I don't know, baseball. Science fair, baseball. Science fair, baseball. How do you choose? Guess what? You don't have to. No reason you can't do both. You meet in the middle. Everyone's happy.
I guess not. We got the sports dad that doesn't understand his son, that prefers science. Well, Victor basically gets forced to play baseball, so that his dad will allow him to participate in the science fair, and because they all decide to take Sparky to the game for some reason, he chases after the baseball that Victor hits and runs into the street, of course, getting hit by a car. And it follows the original story pretty closely here. Victor sees the demonstration of electricity on the frog, gathers up some items to bring Sparky to life, blah blah blah, and of course, it works. Strangely though, Victor decides to go to school as normal the next day instead of spending time with his dog? And Sparky gets out to cause shenanigans for the neighbors, frightening some of them. He makes it to Victor's school, which causes Edgar to see him, before making it back home to play with the neighbor's poodle. Victor makes it home, and then Edgar goes to his house to talk about Sparky and uses this as blackmail for Victor to show him how he did it for the science fair. The two of them attempt the experiment on a dead goldfish, and while it does revive it, it also seems to turn the goldfish invisible somehow, which Victor has no idea why. Victor tells Edgar to keep the experiment a secret, which he immediately goes to brag to two of the boys in the class about the fish. And news of the invisible fish spreads to another boy in the class. However, when Edgar tries to show off the fish to him, the fish seems to be gone. Further shenanigans happen as two of the boys from the class attempt their science experiment, which results in one of them getting hurt. And then the scariest thing of all happens, a PTA meeting. The parents and mayor, of course, blame the teacher for negatively influencing their children, and he seriously doesn't help his own case.
I cannot make your heads bigger, but your children's heads. I can take them and crack them open. This is what I try to do. To get at their brains!
Wow, who would have thought that his speech would have resulted in him getting dismissed? I never would have saw that coming. Before the teacher leaves, Victor decides to ask a vague question about the experiment with Sparky and the fish. And it seems that since Victor loved his dog, and just wanted to get the experiment with the fish over with, that's why it didn't work the same. I don't think it works like that, but whatever floats y'all's boat. Unfortunately, Victor's secret of Sparky doesn't stay a secret for long, as Edgar tells other kids in the class about Sparky, and Victor's parents see Sparky in the attic, their panic causing Sparky to run away. They are initially upset with Victor, but decide that they'll help him find Sparky and have a discussion about everything later. Victor and his parents go out looking for Sparky, and the kids from Victor's class break into his house to use the science equipment in the attic. As Dutch Day's festivities are underway, the kids in Victor's class go to the pet cemetery to find animals to bring back from the dead, fueled by their desire to win the science fair. However, the experiments go horribly wrong, as the weird girl's cat becomes a monstrous cat-bat hybrid, the dead rat that Edgar brings back becomes monstrous, as well as the turtle, sea monkeys, and hamster that are brought back. Victor does end up finding Sparky, but also finds some of the revived abominations, which begin to wreak havoc. You know, I gotta say, I'm honestly low-key kinda disappointed that this scene didn't end up as a Jurassic Park reference. The sea monkeys, hamster, and rat are dealt with rather quickly, leaving quite literally the biggest problem, the revived turtle. However, thanks to Victor's quick thinking, that threat is taken care of. Well, glad that was solved. Oh yeah, there's still a problem. Sparky tries to tell Victor's parents what happened, but the mayor and other town residents end up mistaking Sparky as a violent animal and chase after him. The scene at the windmill ends up mostly the same, with it getting set on fire and Sparky and Victor inside. Plus, some crazy cat and the girl and her poodle added to the mix. Sparky saves Victor, but gets dragged inside of the burning building. No idea why the cat decided to have a boss battle inside the burning building, but here we are. But both animals end up perishing in the fire. We do end up getting the same scene with the cars reviving Sparky, with the townsfolk being more accepting of Sparky. And that was the end of the Frankenweenie remake. How does it hold up? This one definitely has a different feel from the original, being more of an homage to horror movies in general than a parody of Frankenstein. The stop-motion animation, of course, is great, and so is the atmosphere. It's also smart to make the movie in black and white to honor both the original short and the classic scary movies that it's referencing, but honestly, I prefer the original short to this movie. I like more so the vibe of Victor bringing strangeness to an otherwise normal suburban town. In the remake, everyone is so strange that Sparking being brought back to life doesn't feel that strange in comparison. I also like the neighbors in the original short more. The mayor didn't really go through much of a character arc. The kids in the class only really seemed to be there to pad out time, and honestly, it felt like it worked better as a shorter story. But if you're looking for a gothic children's movie with more Tim Burton-y vibes and a more serious tone, then the remake is still good. I just personally like the short a little bit more, but either one of these versions would be great to add to your Halloween library. But hopefully one of these movies brought back terrifying memories for you. But don't be scared off quite yet. We still have much more this month.
So stay tuned.